From 13 ABC, Conklin and Company with 13 ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome into another edition of Conklin and Company. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. Today on the program, we are looking back at the week that was, Toledo losing 2 firefighters in the line of duty. But amid the tragedy, community coming together once again, as Toledo, Northwest Ohio always seems to do, in support to honor our fallen heroes and the Toledo Fire Department. Also, what would you do? The burning question that turned into a hit television show. Emmy Award-winning journalist John Quinones hosts, and he was in Bowling Green this week talking to students. Our Sean Haggerty caught up with the Emmy Award-winning journalist. That's coming up in segment 2 today. But first, taking flight. Apparently more of you took flight out of Toledo Express in 2013, especially in the month of December. Question is, will it translate to a better year in 2014? Even better for Toledo Express Airport and the local economy as a whole. CEO, President of the Toledo-Lucas County Port Authority, joining us for the annual or semi-annual visit on Conklin and Company.
Yeah, we'll
Paul
call it semi-annual.
Yeah, good to see you again. Hope your holiday was good, Paul, and
it was.
Looking forward to a good 2014. Certainly was an outstanding way to round out the year at Toledo Express Airport, up 45% in the month alone. Reason for it, main reason.
Well, the main reason was Allegiant adding new service, and then actually American Eagle, with less seats in the market, was up 24%, which means they're filling a greater percentage of their seats, which is obviously great momentum carrying into 2014. Yeah,
and people need to get to Chicago to connect, right?
They do.
So with that American Eagle flight. So an outstanding month and a pretty good year, up 11% for the year.
Yep, I mean 11% is not a staggering number,
right,
but in the aviation industry, those are big numbers. Right now, most of the markets either seeing flat or losing traffic, and so we've certainly had our years of challenges and
well documented.
Have ridden the consolidation of the airline industry, and we hope this is the upswing we've been anticipating.
Looking forward, I'm going to throw out Akron-Canton, because during the whole, with all the chatter of the Treese family talking, proposing, hey, we can operate this airport, we can perhaps do a better job. People mentioned Akron-Canton as one of the regional airports that really has made a good go of it.
Yep.
How come? What are they doing right?
Well, there's one reason, and one reason only, and it's AirTran Airways. AirTran was in that market, provided much lower fares than what you could get out of Cleveland, and so it was a huge competitive advantage for Akron.
Was AirTran ever here?
AirTran was here back in 2000, and right after 9/11, they announced that they were going to pull out of the Toledo market. They actually went to Wichita, who ended up paying between the state and the community somewhere around $20 million to keep AirTran. AirTran's since been purchased by Southwest, and they will no longer exist as a standalone airline beginning the middle of this year. So it's going to be interesting to see what that dynamic does to those communities that lived and died by those low fares that AirTran provided in the market.
Well, you mentioned that acquisition, but the airline industry as a whole, I mean, it becoming, everybody's buying everyone, and what is it? So we have Delta merging with, was it Northwest?
Northwest, yep.
American merging with
US Air most recently.
Which one's the biggest one? I mean, it seems to change.
Well, American US Air merger has made them the biggest. Prior to that, it was Delta, and of course, a couple years ago, it was United and Continental coming together.
So month to month, year to year.
We have gone from over the last 12 years from 9 major airlines, TWA, America West. They're all now collapsed to 3, and then you've got Southwest, which could arguably be considered a major airline as well.
Big picture as a whole, what's that mean?
Certainly what we envision over the next 10 years is that less competition is not good. We're going to continue to see increases in airfares. Some would argue that only the elite will be able to afford to travel going forward. I don't think that's the case. I think we've seen stabilized fuel costs, oil costs. There's a lot of development in synthetic fuels for the aviation industry, and I believe that over the next 5 years we're going to start seeing, the price of fuel went from about 10 to 14% to upwards of 50% of their operating costs, and what happened had to happen, but I think you'll start seeing expansion over the next 5 to 6 years.
How do you continue growth at Express Airport in
Well,
2014?
That's a great question. I think coming off this year that we had, one thing about this industry is success always breeds success in this industry. Airlines see other airlines being successful in a market. They take note. Certainly with Americans' increased numbers, increased passengers, with their merger with US Air, which has East Coast hubs in Philly and Charlotte, we feel like we're in a very good position in 2014 to be able to expand their services not only to Chicago but to one or both of those markets.
I took a flight with US Airways from here to New York City. I forgot what year it was, but that was a while ago.
Yes, it was.
Do you foresee where you can get a partnership with a major airline to fly directly, so you don't have to connect in Chicago, Paul, or Detroit, even make that? Northwest Airlink used to go up to Detroit or Tommy or what have you.
It's a much bigger challenge in a market like Toledo when you're next to a Detroit that's got 800 flights a day, and I think the last time I counted, there are 28 nonstop flights a day from Detroit to New York, which is LaGuardia, JFK, and
Newark?
Kennedy, and Newark, rather, yes. So that's a big challenge for a market like ours. Airlines want to, they're not about build it and they will come. They basically put their airplanes in markets where they feel very confident that they can be successful. So
you show the track record. Say, we've been successful.
Yep.
Give us the pitch, Paul. I'm Joe Airline, right?
Yep.
And I want to expand my service. Give us the pitch. You don't have the PowerPoint at your fingertips here, but make the sell.
The pitch is that we can go back and we do analysis and we show, look at our average fare is 20% higher than what you're able to get on your same service out of Detroit. We've seen great load factors. We're out working with the community, the corporations, and you basically have to build the momentum with the airline. They are, I could be the best salesman in the world, but it's putting butts in seats and getting the business community to support what's there before I can really have any effect in convincing an airline to add more service. And I think we've made a nice stride with that over the last 12 months.
Sound like the sports team owner. It's all about getting butts in the seats.
That's right.
Huh?
That's what it is.
That's the analogy I draw there. Yep. The chatter's died down. The Treese family proposing to take over operations at the airport. Did you take that personally? As the head of the Port Authority?
Yeah, well, of course you do. I've put a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears and many hours into that airport, and I always explain running the airport, especially from the passenger side. How would you like to run a business in which you don't get to control any of your own pricing, any of your customer service, any of your schedule, and yet somehow you're responsible for the success or failure of it? And that's always a challenge as an airport operator when you don't get to control how the airlines treat their customers, how much they want to charge, and so it's a challenge. I think the Treeses were very well intentioned. I think that they're entrepreneurs, and I think it's a much bigger challenge than when you've got the airports are public utilities. They serve the community. And it's tough to look at them as purely a business proposition. We invested a tremendous amount of money into that airport, which the Air National Guard alone is $117 million annual economic impact to our community. So when we make improvements we did an $11 million runway overlay project of our main runway last year. That supports everything that goes on out there. And in order to do that, you have to have a public agency like the Port Authority operating that airport and being able to access federal dollars. And looking at privatizing, frankly, is probably just not a good opportunity for us in Toledo.
But perhaps we have not seen the last of what will come. And Mayor Collins had said, let's see the final business plan. And there has been a lot of information out there. So we'll see what happens this year, Paul. The Port Authority's loss is the City of Toledo's gain. Matt Sapara goes from the Port Authority to the City of Toledo under the Collins regime. Yep. Is that a boost for you now that you have a player, a partner, a former colleague who's working with the city now directly? Tell us about it.
So immediately it creates a void in our organization. Matt was a rock star for us. Matt was one of the key drivers in our redevelopment of the Jeep property, and he's a loss for us, but we consider it actually a gain now that Matt spent some time over at the city. I think it was one of Mayor Collins' best decisions right out of the gate. Matt and I talk almost every day. We're working collaboratively with the RGP and others on several projects, and Matt kind of comes from the Port Authority's mentality, which is you do whatever you got to do to get the job done, and it's really nice to have that attitude over at the city now.
Kind of a seamless situation, I would imagine, for him. He's just moving offices, right?
Yeah, he really is.
Okay.
It's been a great experience so far.
All right, Paul Toth, as always, best of luck in 2014 at Toledo Express Airport. We only talked the airline industry today, but of course there are many other entities that go along with the Port Authority. Best of luck this year, Paul.
Thank you.
Come back in just a minute. Conklin and Company continues right after this.